Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of what Indians are all about.
I still say we Indian people are believers in the truth. This is the way of life that was given to your people. You're born an Indian, you're going to die an Indian. Indianness is a good life. You're facing an Indian this afternoon.
Good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone, and welcome to your number one source for Native American television news. It's Native News Today, and I am your host, Jason Salzman, and we continue this week with our debate series for the 2017 Mvskoke Creek National Council elections, and our debate this week takes us to the Okmulgee District, and we shot this last week. Now it's available to you here on Native News Today. Hello and welcome as we continue with our 2017 Mvskoke Creek Nation National Council debates presented by Mvskoke Media here. And today we are featuring the Okmulgee District. I am your host, Jason Salzman. I want to welcome in today our candidates for participating in the debate. I want to thank them. We have current representative incumbent James Jennings and Carmen Tecumseh-Williams herself, a former council representative as well. We do not have a time limit for you on the answer to these questions, so just feel free to answer as you like. I will alternate which candidate initially answers each question. So we'll start with one, next question, then we'll go to the next candidate that will start. But you will both have a chance to answer each question. The questions can revolve around tribal issues, your personal views, your platforms, but can also include things pertinent to the district that you're wanting to represent or currently represent in your case, Mr. Jennings. If you are both ready, we're going to go ahead and begin. Okay. All right, Mr. Jennings, we'll start with you. Are you currently under contract for any entity or organization outside of the Mvskoke Creek Nation, or do you have any previously undisclosed business interests?
No, I do not. I'm retired, and I'm a council representative. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tecumseh-Williams, I'm sorry. Same question for you. Currently under contract for any entity or organization outside of MCN, or do you have any previously undisclosed business interests?
I do not. I just serve on basic boards, advisory boards, child welfare, that type of thing, but nothing contract worthy.
Thank you. We'll keep it with you for the next question. Will being a council representative be your only employment? If not, will you miss work to attend meetings?
Fortunately, I have the opportunity to serve in a position that it's not an 8-to-5 job. I don't sit behind a desk. I do a lot of public relations. So my job, again, is an 8-to-5. It happens during the weekends and the evenings. So no, it's not. It won't interfere in my opportunity to serve full time as a representative.
Mr. Jennings, same question for you. You said you were retired. So
thank you. Yes, sir. I am retired, and I have been a full-time council member since I was elected in 2013. Previously, when I was on the council, I did work, and it was a hassle. You know, I did take off from my other job to work, but and at that time, we were elected by districts, and so we had 26 council members, and we had 5 from Okmulgee. So it wasn't that you could miss a meeting, you know, at that time. But since we've gone to 16 council members and 2 per district, it's very important that you're there at every meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Jennings, we'll stay with you for our next question and start off. This is actually a question in from a citizen. This comes from Tina from Wilson. She wants to know, what is your position on the attempts by the Kaleji tribal town to open a casino in Broken Arrow?
I am not in favor of that, and it's been attempted previously by a different group, some of the same players in this one now, and it's not legal. I'll put it that way. NIGC has ruled that that they're not legal to operate that casino.
Same question. Mr. Tecumseh Williams, what is your position on the attempts by the Kaleji Tribal Town to open a casino in Broken Arrow?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Jennings in that I felt like that doing so without having actually had a conversation with us as the tribe, with it being within our jurisdictional boundaries, I felt like that it's just not that time. It's not that time for a tribal town to move in their gaming when those agreements haven't been made, since it is technically within our jurisdictional boundaries. So yes, I agree with Mr. Jennings that at this time I'm not in agreement with the tribal towns opening without really having that conversation first.
Thank you. Stay with you here, Carmen. What specific legislation are you going to propose if you are elected?
Well, there are a lot of I believe there are a lot of issues that we really want to look at. So I can't point specifically to one. One of the platform issues that I do have, and I understand that employees are a very small number in comparison to the 83,000, approximately 83,000 tribal members that we do have. However, they are the face of Creek Nation. We employ a lot of people that provide those direct services to all of our citizens. And so my concern, a part of my platform is employee protection. I feel like that we as council representatives or potential council representatives, we have the opportunity to pass some legislation that will help us to put those protections in place for employees. It's very, very important for our employees to come to work and have that pride, but also have that stability of when they come to work and when they go home, knowing that they've done a good job and that they have their rights protected when they feel that their rights have been violated. So I feel like that would be one of the first legislative actions I would introduce would be to enhance our HR program and to really help that to work for our employees. So that would be one of my first ones, because I think it's very important for us to stay to be on top of what we're doing within our tribe, because it does affect all of our citizens. It affects all of our tribal citizens. We have to come into the 21st century. We have to be on top of things and think outside the box. And so in doing so, along with that, reaching out to all of our constituents, making it, whether it be through social media, through emails, through video conferencing, live streaming, whatever it may be, we need to make sure that we are also involving all of our at-large people. So the other part of that, I guess it's a twofold answer. Part of that would be to ensure that we are having legislation introduced that would require us to be in more real-time contact with our constituents that live outside our boundaries.
Thank you, Miss. Mr. Jennings, the same question there. Any specific legislation in mind for if you are reelected?
Yes, as far as my platform, I did state that we needed to get a better return on our investments through our businesses such as One Fire. And I would think it would be time for us to look at selling Riverwalk. I know that may be a surprise to some people, but we invested in the Flying T as an anchor tenant, and it has filled the complex up at Riverwalk. And I think that we owe enough money out there on the loans that we did take out for Flying T and the purchase of Riverwalk, that I think it would be a good opportunity for us to get rid of it. Thank you.
And Mr. Jennings, we'll stay with you for the next question. That's a good segue into our next question because it does deal with purchases, business ventures, and some of the property purchases that we have done. What information would you require as a council representative, meaning information that you would need to make your decision to vote on property purchases, business ventures, etc.?
I would look at the appraised value of the property and what they're actually asking. And you also have your issues with your environmental, and then we have ran into the problem of a clear title with some of the properties that we have purchased, and that is some of the main things. But then you need a plan for the use of that property, and we have a golf course sitting out here that we don't have a plan for. We're developing one now, but we didn't when we purchased it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Same question for you, Ms. Williams. What information would you require as a council representative in order to vote on property purchases, business ventures, etc.?
Okay, well, first of all, we definitely want to see a business plan, feasibility studies, clear titles, all of those things that Mr. Jennings had mentioned. Those are the things that first and foremost are what we should be looking at. We should be making sure that when we talk about being fiscally responsible, that's one of the main things that we really need to address is how is this beneficial for the tribe? How is this does it truly have a potential to make to have a revenue stream? What is it that we're going to do with it? What's the sustainability? So that, and of course, all that is included into a business plan. I also feel that along with that, that it's important that when we are purchasing land or we're purchasing property, that we have a specific process of how we're going to do that. Are we making sure and ensuring that we have the same consistent process? Are we gathering the same the documents that we need? Are we making sure that, like Mr. Jennings said, that titles are clear? Do we have basically like a one-stop shop? Are we so that we're not throwing money away? We're not throwing money away needlessly, and that we're going to one place, because once we do purchase property, the intent is to put it into trust. And in doing so, at this time, we don't have one specific place that goes to. Realty has to do their part. Those that are purchasing the land have to do their part. But if we don't have one specific process, then we're kind of all over the place. What we need to do is make sure that when we pass legislation, that we have one process and it goes to one office, so that it's more feasible and it's more economical, and that we all know what's going on, instead of land being purchased here by one department and land being purchased here at another department. We need to have that process streamlined so that things are more effective and more efficient.
Thank you. We'll stay with you for the next question, Carmen. This question is again from a citizen. This comes from Jeff from Beggs, and he asks, recently the nation took legal action in court that a member of a tribal town could not also be enrolled as a member of the nation. What is your position regarding dual enrollment of citizens from tribal towns?
Well, we've had to really talk about and take into consideration of what our Constitution says and what we have allowed to happen within the code. We do know that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and so of course that takes first and foremost, that takes forefront. We have to come into that decision and adjust and go back to the table and say, to clearly state, are we going to allow dual enrollment? Are we not going to allow dual enrollment? Right now, right now today, as it stands, I'm going to have to say that I'm I'm in support that we have our tribal towns that are enrolled with us as the nation at Mvskoke Creek Nation, because they are Creek. They are Creek people. And at this time, I just don't feel that we're at that place that we could say that we can't allow dual enrollment. Down the line, when we have more specific language put in place, that's the time that citizens then will have to definitely make their own decisions. So at this time, if I have to give a specific answer as to do I believe in the dual enrollment and am I supportive of it, I am at this moment. But I do feel like that has to be a conversation, and we do have to revisit that part of our code.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings, same question. What is your position regarding dual enrollment of citizens in tribal towns and the Mvskoke Creek Nation, of course, in response to the recent tribal court case?
Well, I agree with Ms. Williams also on that. We have the 3 tribal towns that do share some of our housing funds at the tribal towns. They're Creek citizens, so they do get part of our funding from the housing at the. So I think there's a different question as far as allowing them to be duly enrolled and seeking office for the nation and their tribal town. I think that's a completely different issue, because also, I don't know if you would consider it, but like the Uchis, they have their own language. They don't have a land base, but they're part of Creek Nation also. Mm-hmm. So the dual enrollment, I don't think is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you both. Mr. Jennings, we'll stay with you for this next question. This question is also from a citizen, comes from Eddie in Mvskoke. He asks, as you may know, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals recently ruled in the Murphy versus Royal case that the Creek Reservation has not been disestablished. Although the appeals process is not yet complete, what do you think is important for Creek Nation to do to prepare for a final ruling that the Creek Reservation does in fact remain intact?
That's going to be a big financial burden for the nation, if that stands, because we'll be the law enforcement and everything for the original reservation. So I think that we will have to plan on a very large budget and some way to fund all this to take care of it.
So same question for you. What do you think is important for us to prepare for a ruling that may uphold the Creek Nation Reservation intact?
Well, of course, like you said, it's not final. We have and it depends on how the court will rule on again at the 10th Circuit. Because at some point somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose the case, and then that party has the opportunity, whoever does not win will have the opportunity to appeal and send it to the Supreme Court. So we have a little bit of time, and I wouldn't write on that time, because like Mr. Jennings said, it is going to be a huge financial burden to our tribe, because we have to take into consideration that it would change many things for us. It would change our taxation regulation. It would change our criminal proceedings, our civil proceedings. It will change so many things, and that is a huge burden for our tribe. We also take into account that along with that, there are so many other jurisdictional issues. Let's say that it passes, we'll absolutely have to triple in size or quadruple in size as far as our employment. We definitely a huge financial burden. We have to now, at this very moment, we should be talking about that. We as legislators, as administration, as citizens, we have to be talking about that. We need to be preparing. Have we started those talks? Are we setting out plans? Have we set out a plan, or basically like a business plan? Just like we mentioned before, we're going to take on a whole load of things. I understand us wanting to have that type of support of our citizens by living on a reservation ran by the tribe, but it truly is going to be a huge undertaking. So yes, it's time. It's time for we should already be meeting and talking about what we're going to do if this plan, if that ruling comes, saying that we are the supreme law of the land within our jurisdiction. What are those plans? And if there are plans, are we sharing them? Are we making those transparent for our citizens to be aware of what is being discussed?
Thank you. And Mr. Councilman Williams, we'll stay with you for our last question, then I'll let you guys get out of here. This last question comes to us from the Mvskoke Nation Youth Council. What are some ways you as council reps preserve the Mvskoke language and culture?
What are some ways that we?
Yes, you
Okay.
yourself, yes.
Well, number one, we attend, my family, most often we observe our traditions. We attend ceremonial grounds, but we also attend our churches. So I grew up attending church out near Yardiga, Hickory Ground number 2. My grandfather was Solomon Lee, and so we spent a lot of time out at the churches. But also currently, I attend the Creek hymn singing lessons that I've just started back up. And of course, I've always taken those lessons. I'm a member at Belvin Baptist Church, and years ago we started a class, and that's where I learned how to sing our Creek hymns. So we definitely do that. Speak as much as we can to our elders. In preserving that is to also teach our children, making sure that when we even the very intermediate words, Mado, Inga, Humbucksjay.
Yeah. One of the favorites.
Absolutely. So it really is important to me and to my family that we pass on our traditions and pass on our language and pass on our songs, because that's what's kept us going right now. So
Thank you so much. Mr. Jennings, finish us out there. What, as council, or some of the ways you as council rep and just in your own personal life as well, preserve the Mvskoke language and culture?
I do not speak the language. As most of you know, I did attend the boarding schools, and that was prohibited. But I do encourage my grandkids. They did go to the language camp this summer and attend that, and I support the language program here at the Nation. Also, the Youth Council. The Proctor, Darrell Jr. and his sister, they became very fluent speakers by being a part of the Youth Council. So I just would like to encourage the youth to keep on doing that. But also the songs, I have the CDs. I can't sing the songs, but I can listen to them, but I do support the language program.
Well, thank you both.
I
Would
would
you like to
like
reply?
I would like to add to that.
Go ahead.
Because I don't want to be in any way misleading.
Please.
But I don't fluently speak the language either.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, especially when my grandmother would gripe at me or holler at me. But I don't speak it fluently. But I have taken classes. I'm not saying I did well, but I have taken those classes, and definitely our youth council is amazing. They do amazing things and do a lot of things that promote within our communities to what they're doing to preserve our language and our culture too. So
And providing questions for our debates here. They're doing a good job
absolutely,
with that.
absolutely.
Well, thank you all both for all of your answers to these questions and for being here today. We appreciate you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to also thank you citizens that have been joining us live here on our online channel as we continue with our live stream of the debates for the 2017 Mvskoke Creek Nation National Council elections. And as a reminder, if you didn't vote in the primary election, you can still vote in the general election. It does not disqualify you if you weren't able to make it for the primary. Although we do want to encourage you all to vote in every single election that we have here if you're a Mvskoke Creek Nation citizen. But the deadline to register as an absentee voter will be October 12th. That's coming up, so mark it on your calendars. And please, if you're an absentee voter, please get that registration done. The deadline to register as a precinct voter will be October 25th. So there are some dates there, and the general election, of course, will be November 4th. And we will be hosting debates for Tulsa and Tuckabutchee districts in the coming weeks. You can watch the Creek and Mvskoke district debates on the website now and on the YouTube channel. It's all there and it's all archived, and that's one of the great things that we can provide to our citizens. We know a lot of people can't watch us live. That's okay. You can watch us whenever you get time on demand right there on our online channel. We love being able to provide that service to our citizens. If you have a question for one of these debates and you would like your name read and your question read here on the debate, please email us, jmcbride@mvskokemedia.com, and we'll get you those hooked up and get them in the rotation. If they're pertinent questions, that is. So we have also invited the winners of the McIntosh, Mvskoke, Wagner, Rogers, and Mays districts, respectively, to participate or elaborate on their goals and plans for their upcoming council term. So even if they don't have an opponent, we'd still like to hear from those council representatives, as we know that those people in those districts want to hear from as well. Stay tuned to MvskokeMedia.com and our social media sites, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even Snapchat. We're young and hip here at Mvskoke Media, and we want you to stay with us for all those outlets and for all the election coverage that we can provide to you here at Mvskoke Media. Once again, I want to thank Representative James Jennings and Ms. Carmen Tecumseh Williams for joining us today. I'm Jason Salzman. Thank you for watching the Mvskoke District Debate here with us. Mado Hadam, Che Chatlis. Mogi. And that'll wrap us up for this week, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to your candidates from the Mvskoke District, Ms. Carmen Tecumseh Williams and Mr. James Jennings, the incumbent there. And we want to remind you that not only that debate, but all the debates we've filmed so far are on the online channel, and we've got debates coming up in other districts as well. So be on the lookout for those on MvskokeMedia.com, as well as right here on Native News Today. You guys have a great week, and we'll be right back the same time, same place next week.